Ladies and gentlemen, Maggie Tabberer.
Maggie, in fact, you went into modelling for one of the most curious reasons I've ever come across, out of boredom, didn't you? I mean, you were just sick of being a housewife, was that it?
Well, I was married when I was 17 and rapidly produced 2 daughters, which I don't regret because they're divine, except that suddenly it was bottles and babies' bottoms and napkins, and by the time I was 19, I thought, got to be something else.
Yeah. What sort of model were you? Were you the sort of smell under the nose variety or the sporty type?
Well, let's...
You know the smell under the haughty sort of thing.
Well,
I think because I've got that rather haughty nose.
Well, the fashion was sort of like that. You know, it was well before the sort of freckles, healthy, outdoor sort of thing that came later, you know, when you got to Twiggy, that dreadful woman. But in my day, yes, it was very high fashion. And, of course, I worked with Helmut Newton, who liked ladies to look like that.
Well, we've got, in fact, a photograph of you here.
Oh,
with that's a Helmut Newton picture, and you can see there.
Wasn't I thin? Look at me.
Well, you're thin there, yeah.
Wasn't I thin?
How much depends on being a successful model, and you became a top model, on that relationship with your photographer, somebody like Helmut Newton?
I was very lucky in as much as I was on working. I mean, I went with my husband, my then current husband, to Melbourne. He was on a golfing holiday. And someone in the fashion industry, because by then I was sort of modelling in Adelaide, introduced me to Helmut Newton. And he actually persuaded us to go and live in Melbourne so that I could take up modelling with him. And I literally worked for him every day of my life. It's not like the agency sort of system that now works, where models work for 10 photographers. I worked for Helmut every day because he got a thing about 1 or 2 girls and he used them all the time. So we had a very sort of strong relationship. And, I mean, he was awful. I love him dearly, but he was awful. He was so demanding.
Sense? You know, how demanding?
Oh, he had me doing terrible things. I mean, really
Tell me.
No, I'm not going to tell you about those things. And I will tell you about some things. But, I mean, he just had a big... Unlike today, which is probably financial, because it's so expensive using models today, that mainly we work in the studio, because I'm in the fashion business now and I use a lot of models, and we mainly work in the studio because it just costs a hell of a lot to go on location. But in the good old days, I mean, we used to fly to New Guinea or we'd go to the snow or something, and I mean, we worked on location all the time. He was a terrible coward. And I sometimes think that I have a sneaky suspicion, Mike, that my success was not only based on the fact that I then was an all-right-looking bird, but I was also the biggest and the strongest and the healthiest. And when we used to get on location, I mean, he used to do terrible things to me.
Like what?
Well, in the snow, you know those great chairlifts that go up, and he hated anything that he didn't have total control of, and he was standing there waiting for the chairlift. You know how it whacks you in the back of the knees, and your bum sort of flops into the chair, and up you go up this terrible mountain. And I was ready. I had my garments for the next shot and makeup and all sorts of things, and he had very heavy camera cases. And as he saw the chair coming towards him, he said, "Here, take this," and threw everything at me. And he went up in the chairlift, and there I was with sort of everything else. But when we got to the top, I could have murdered him this day. He said, he went away and he went into a huddle with someone, and he said, I've got an idea. I want to get this shot of the village, which was by this stage way, 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 way down there from the top station. And he said, and I want you in the chairlift. Now, it either meant that I had to go up and down the bloody mountain in the chairlift 1,000 times for him to take one frame as I came towards him, or he had to organise something. So he organised for the chairlift to be stopped. Now, he said to me, they're going to stop the chairlift at 3:30 in the afternoon, so I'm going to put you on the chair and back you out, and I'll stand at the station and get the shot of you in the chairlift and the village down below and all the mountains and everything. He failed to tell me that the reason they were stopping the chairlift was that this huge storm was about to arrive. So he whacks me in this chair, and I had a sort of poncho, big poncho thing on and a hood and everything, and he backs me up, which is pretty eerie to be swinging around up there by yourself. And I'd never been skiing. I didn't know anything about those chairlifts anyway. And they've got a little strap that goes across. And I thought, well, that's all right. I won't look down and I'll be all right. And he starts yelling, there's a dent in the calf. He said, it's denting there. I want it to look like that. He said, move further forward to the edge of the chair. And I'm saying, Helmut, you know, and I'm looking down, and there's the village down there. And finally he said to me, take the strap off. It's disturbing the garment. I mean, to hell with me. I'm swinging in the breeze, you know, and he's nice and safe back there with his long limbs.
But you were right at the top of your profession, and then, in fact, you got large, didn't you?
Yes, you might have noticed.
But why?
I don't know, Mark. My life was very disturbed by then. My marriage had broken up. I was very young. I was solely responsible for 2 children. And I think, funnily, in the back of my head, I had a thing that modelling couldn't go on, you know. I mean, I felt it was time for me to get out of it before it got out of me. And, I mean, I'd married at 17, I'd left school at 14, I really wasn't educated to do anything else. And I think, in a funny sort of way, I sort of might have talked myself into... Does that sound crazy? It sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? No. I think I might have talked myself into the fact that I had to do something else and I had to force myself to stop just doing modelling, and therefore it was easy to eat and compensate myself and then force myself to do something.
Did it make a profound... It obviously had a profound effect on your career. I mean, you could no longer do the Helmut Newton fashion shots.
Well, he'd also gone away by then. He'd gone to live in Europe, as you know, and it wanted me to go, and also another girl, marvellous girl that I used to model with, Maggie Tabberer, wherever she is, the most beautiful girl in the world. And she went off to marry some farmer or something, and I really couldn't go. I had 2 children to take care of.
But, I mean, what effect did it have on your life? I mean, you've now, I suppose, espoused the cause of the large lady, have you not, in Australia? Are there many large ladies in Australia?
There's actually, it's interesting, because next year I'm going to launch a range for the fuller figure, because I think we're very badly catered to in the fashion field. There are lovely people like Carla Zampatti and Inga Fonagy at Simona who do small ranges for the fuller figure, but basically out there in the mass market it's very difficult to buy fashion. You can buy shrouds or terrible tents or something, and no personality colours and no personality prints and no personality shapes. But when it comes to buying, you know, really nice clothes, they're not there. So I'm going to launch my own label. And in our research, we found that 60% of the women in Australia are a size 14 upwards.
So the men. but I mean,
noticed.
but beyond the obvious, I mean, the obvious thing about fashion, I mean, what other problems do large women have? I mean, the psychological problems involved in them.
It's terrible, really, you see, because if Botticelli, I mean, if I'd been in Botticelli's time, darling, I would have been one of the great beauties of the time.
That's right, being very revealing. Yeah.
But, you know, those terrible women like Twiggy, I think, probably started, you know, and they brought around with their freckles and no boobs and no bottom and all that, isn't it? And then, I mean, Jackie Onassis I hate, I have to tell you. I mean, I can't believe that anybody can be that rich and that thin. and make it so make it so voguish, make it so acceptable. But it really fascinates me. I mean, nobody goes around and apologises for being short. Don Lane doesn't apologise for being a giant. Why should you apologise for being large?
Yes. I suppose that, I mean, one of the reasons is because traditionally large women have always been the butt of music hall jokes and that sort of thing. And there's something people imagine grotesque about a large lady. And, of course, undeniably, I mean, I don't know what your experience would be, but would it not be true that many large ladies, I mean, stay indoors? I mean,
well, yes,
can't face the world.
Well, I think a lot of them do because they feel inferior, because every time... I think that's also got something to do with their clothes and being accepted and being able to look good. And... you know, I suppose that's the reason they hide away. But I also think it's the attitude of other people.
Yes. But what's the bravest thing you've ever done as a large lady? I mean, the time you had to make your mind up.
There's quite a few things that I'm not going to tell you.
No.
Let me think. What's the bravest thing? Oh, I know. I was in Mexico, having a lovely holiday with a friend of mine, marvellous Mexican friend of mine, and we were in a little resort called Puerto Vallarta. Do you know it? It's absolutely divine. It's wonderful. And we're lying on this absolutely beautiful beach, and day after day I watch these people take off from the beach with a parachute strapped to their back. Do you know the things that yes. Well, it's actually a parachute.
Parachute.
Yeah, it's not, and they take off towed by a speedboat, and they went right out around the harbour. And I laid on the beach and I watched these people going round and round and round for about 5 days. And one morning I got up and I said to Alfredo, I'm going to do that. And he said, you're absolutely crackers. And I said, I'm going to do it. I hadn't even had a drink, I might tell you. It was before lunch, right? And I said, no, I'm going to do it. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm 42. And I've never done anything like that. And I feel I've got to do it. So down the beach I trot. Well, I was in probably... I'd been eating all that good Mexican food, so I was even more rounded than I am now. And these 2 skinny little Mexican guys, he ran this sort of boat ride, took one look at this thing emerging down the beach and saying, I want to try, and I'm shoving my money at them, and they all looked a bit sort of nervous, and they started to make adjustments to the harness. to get me in. And it's a terrible thing, you know, because they've got something comes up between your legs and something that goes around your middle and over your shoulders and everything, and then get you all organised. And they tell you then what you've got to do, because when you come into land, they whistle at you, and you've got to pull on one of these strings to tilt the air out of the parachute, so you sort of gradually float down. Well, of course, probably my weight. Anyway, I took off. I made a beautiful exit. My heart was going... And I kept on saying, calm, Margaret, calm. Look, take everything in. This is a wonderful experience. This is a wonderful experience. I was so scared. Right down around the house. And just as I was getting to really relax and start to enjoy this wonderful vista, and there's no noise, it's just the wind, you know. And suddenly I heard... And these two little skinny guys on the beach, and they're screaming, whistling at me like mad. So I went to tilt the thing, and I really had to pull hard, because with my weight, of course, I had a lot of air in that parachute. Finally did, and I came in, skimmed right over the top of the hotel, over the top of the beach, coming down over the top of the palm trees, and came in like a big, beautiful jumbo jet on a three-point landing. I was so pleased with myself. I got such a buzz out of that. I was high for about 2 days. And they all loved me on the beach. All the little guys used to say, and it inspired everybody. There were old guys toddling up. And everybody did it. You know, they thought if she can do it, I can do it.
Used to heights by now. A loft.
A loft.
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do anything like that.
Oh, it was
Not
wonderful.
remotely. No.
Well, you've got a
I'm terrified looking at the road from the edge of the pavement. I'm really not good on heights at all.
You're phobia about flying, have you?
No, I don't have any phobia about flying or you know, in an aeroplane.
Oh,
I mean, in
okay.
chairlifts and things, yeah, no. No, I don't think I have many phobias, really. I suppose dancing would be about the only one.
Dancing?
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Oh, well, I can't dance. I mean, I never could. And I'm about to do a musical show. I can sort of learn steps, you know, and I'll sort of fake it, but I had this sort of terror of dancing instilled in me when I was quite young at a dance. I think I was about 17 years old, my first dance. And I was there in my baggy trousers and my tie that I bought that afternoon. And the adults were sort of dancing, and I was, you know, drinking something revolting like a rum and peppermint, I think was the big drink at the time.
Yes.
And suddenly the band leader said, and now for the kids, a jive. And you, and a big spot went on this girl, and you, and a big spot went on me, we'll start. And everybody cleared the floor. And I went out, and I sort of turned my back on this girl. I said, what's a jive? And she said, oh, hold on to my hand. She proceeded to flay me around the dance. So I decided that I'd take up playing in a rock and roll band, so that every dance I went to, I was up on the stage playing and not dancing.
No, but it's not right on the floor.
But you have a lovely story, actually, Maggie, I want you to tell me about a man that you worked with, did your television debut with, a man called Eric Bohm, who was, in Britain, the equivalent would be a man like Gilbert Harding, I suppose, who had this very, very gruff exterior, used to reduce people to tears.
Unbelievable man he was. He used to talk on radio. He did a commentary after the news every morning. He'd talk on radio for about, 2 or 3 minutes. And it sounded wonderful. I mean, words and wonderful flow, beautiful language. And then you'd walk around for 10 minutes after you'd finished, and you'd think, what the hell did he say? He really didn't say very much. But he was actually the original Beast on that program, which was my first television program, Beauty and the Beast, which was a panel show. And he really was awful to a lot of people. I mean, he at times was wonderful, but he had this big blustering. And I suspect that he had a great fear of flying, because whenever we used to go interstate to record the shows in other states, he was always so rude to everybody at the airport, from the person that took the ticket. If they said the plane's 5 minutes late, he would personally berate this poor character behind, like it was his fault, you know. The baggage people, everybody that anything to do with the airlines, he hated, and I think that was just his fear thing. But I remember once we were recording, and it was the day before Anzac, and of course he was very much an old digger and old, you know, all that business. And he'd been asked to be a guest speaker in Wagga, which is Wagga way out town and in New South Wales. And they said, well, you know, we've got to fly him, we've got to record, and they had a police escort to get him to the airport on time. And it seems, the story goes, that when he arrived, he went raging through the airport, waving his ticket. And there were 2 little aeroplanes sitting there, 2 Airlines of New South Wales airplanes about to take off. And he was so bombastic and so vile that nobody really dared say which ticket and this way and that plane. He raced out and jumped on the plane that took off. Now, in Wagga, there are 900 old diggers who've come from all over the district, sitting there waiting for the guest of honour to come and speak at the Anzac. And our friend finished up in some remote town in the top of Queensland somewhere. He just got on the wrong plane and nobody corrected him.
Nobody dared tell him.
I laughed and laughed and laughed. I thought it was a wonderful story. He hated it, of course.
But Harding had a reverse side to him, actually. Harding had this very gruff public exterior.
Phoned it too, really.
Really?
Yeah, he was wonderful. I mean, it was as though he felt it was a sign of weakness to ever let you see that. But there were a couple of occasions in my life when things got rough that he just showed the most wonderful compassion.
What would they be?
We lost a child in a cot death at 10 days, and I'd stayed with the show while I got bigger and bigger and bigger, more pregnant, and he sort of felt a great, you know, involvement, I suppose. And when we lost that baby, he was just wonderful. You know, came and stood at the bottom of the bed and cried like a baby.
Really?
Himself, yeah.
It's an extraordinary thing, of course, is the cot death, isn't it? I mean, it must have a profound psychological effect on the parent.
I think it took me a year to sort of even start to see my way through that. It was a dreadful thing. And I think the reason is that you can't hang on to anything. It's not like Mike, the doctor, says, well, the child had a weak heart, or the child had, you know, so that you could say to yourself afterwards, well, you know, if the baby had lived, it would have a weak heart, and I'd have to compensate for that. There's nothing. And they say, well, we don't know. We don't know why babies die in their cot. This huge 10-pound, beautiful baby boy, at 10 days, just one morning gone.
And I suppose also, inevitably, the parents feel subconsciously a kind of sense of guilt. Not guilt, but wonder.
Well, I think you do. I think you wonder, you know. I think the fact that there isn't a label that you can attach, there isn't a reason that you can justify. And I think, you know, both Etta Ray and I must have gone through our own secret hells individually, and even though it was very hard to talk about, I think you do walk around and think, oh, you know, was it something to do with me?
Yeah.
Was that the reason?
Yes. What pulled you through in the end? Was it one sort of person, I mean, apart from Mary Bowman?
Well, in the early stages, I mean, my mother was a wonderful lady. She had 5 kids. She brought them up through the Depression. We were a big family. My dad liked the Terps, and she was really the sort of the, you know, the mainstay. She held the family together, brought the family home, went out to work. She was a wonderful woman. And because I had 2 little girls at the time that I was pregnant, and also I had trouble with my pregnancy, so I went to hospital about a month before the birth. And Mum came up to look after the girls, and she stayed with me. And then, of course, when tragedy happened and I went home, and I was a mess. I mean, I was just a mess. I just laid on the bed, and it was a terrible mess. And she stayed for about 10 days, and then I'll never forget, she came to the bedroom one morning and she said to me, well, you better get out of bed, you've got a husband and 2 children to look after, because I'm going home. And I thought, this can't... And I said, what do you mean you're leaving me? You can't leave me like this. And she said, yes, I can. It's time you got up, young lady, and thought about what is happening in this household. And she left me, and of course I realised very quickly afterwards that that was the best thing she ever did for me, really.
Yeah.
And then I went back to work, and you just got to plough on, I think, don't you?
Right, yeah.
Positive attitude is very hard to motivate yourself, and you probably need somebody like that to give you that positive attitude.
Kick you in the bottom, yeah. The other thing I think about grief is that I really think you have to accept that you are going to have those times. No, you mustn't fight it, and you must say, I'm going to go straight down the middle, because that's the quickest way to get through it. Yeah. And then I think it's good, you know, but I think if you try to step back from it and not experience it, then it's a long, torturous thing. Yeah. Yeah. But I guess it was a year before I felt quite sane again.
Well, your mother sounds a remarkable woman, and I can only say that you are your mother's daughter. Maggie Tabberer, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.